All right. Welcome, everyone. We were just having some fun with the community that I'm going to be on time. But I'm like 1 minute too late because I was waiting for YouTube. It wasn't me. It was external influence that caused the 1 minute delay. But anyways, how is everybody? Right? We have less than 48 hours if you think about it. Less than 48 hours for the Chrysalis go live, right? Until we have a new dawn, until we have a complete new version of IOTA, a complete new mainnet. And once all of us can really experience Firefly to its full extent. So I think it's really, really damn exciting. We still have to think about what we're gonna do for the event. Maybe we'll just do like a Discord, like a group call on Discord, where we can all have fun, have something to drink, and just talk about the future. We always do this in German. I think they're really a big success. I think every week on Mondays there's like 200 people in these German talks where they're talking about IOTA, asking questions, and where also people from the IOTA Foundation are participating to answer questions. And I think it's a pretty great setup. So what we're probably going to do on Wednesday, maybe around 6, 7, 8 p.m., we are going to launch one of these community, what are we going to call it in English? Community talks, I guess. And where we from the IOTA Foundation are going to be there. Maybe we'll do like a presentation, but I think it's more fun if we keep it more freestyled, where all of you can really ask us questions. We can maybe do like a live stream, sending around transactions, seeing the visualizer of the new Chrysalis network go live and all of that. So stay tuned. We're going to do something on Wednesday. Be prepared. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. On Thursday, we're going to do the usual IOTA show. I'm going to be wearing wings in preparation for the phase of the Chrysalis, because we are going to get wings, all of us. So I think we're going to have some good fun. Today, we are going to do another AMA session. It is time. We couldn't do it last week because there was some scheduling that didn't work out. So these questions are still from last week. I will go through them, obviously, as usual. Maybe something else first. Let's actually look at the Chrysalis status page. So far, more than 240 TI were locked and are ready to be released in Chrysalis. We were doing some kind of internal bets, and this is actually more than I expected. I didn't expect, or I expected around 220 in total, simply because most people either have their tokens on a Ledger wallet, have them on some custody solution, or have them on exchanges. So I'm very happy with this number. I'm very happy in the confidence, because this is more than, I don't know, nearly $500 million, if you think about it, right? It's just mind-boggling to think about this stuff. Nearly $500 million have been migrated already to the Chrysalis network. So that's really damn cool. All of you that have not yet migrated, right? There's no rush. You can do it at any point in time after the 28th, right? That is what this is for. It's like a fluid migration where you can go from the old IOTA network to the Chrysalis network. If you want to migrate, right? It's pretty painless process. We did a live show last week together with Charlie, where we spoke about the wallet and where we did the live migration. So for those of you that remember the old days, like this is really, really painless. And we got the support from Binance today, where they finally announced that they're supporting the migration as well. So I think overall, we are ready for launch. I don't think there's anything in our way right now. The migration has been a huge success. We have over 500 million already ready to be migrated. The exchanges are ready, especially the biggest exchanges are ready. So yeah, I think it's time to get excited, and it's kind of crazy to think about how close it is, right? We've been talking about this. We've been thinking about what it's going to be like, right? And now it's in front of us, and it's like I'm pumped, right? And I know I have to be pumped, but I just want to show my excitement for what is to come. So let's go into the AMA. Can you guys see my screen well? I think that's good. Yeah, that's fine. All right. In a few weeks, the IOTA 2.0. By the way, can I kind of remove this thing here? Oh, this is like all the previous AMAs. So it's like a kind of a navigation bar. Maybe let me do full screen like this. Then zoom in even more so it's even easier to read. Okay, let's get started. In a few weeks, the IOTA 2.0 testnet will be released, the protocol without the coordinator. That is correct. In the upcoming months, the network will be tested extensively and certain parameters will be explored. Can you tell us a little bit more about these parameters? To what extent do they affect the network or the core decide? What are these for? For example, could it be that the TPS will decline, or in the worst case, not optimal parameters will delay, prevent core decide? Many thanks. So first of all, there's nothing that's going to prevent core decide at this point, because from a theoretical standpoint, everything is very sound. We have it peer reviewed. We published dozens of papers on core decide, and we've also really done this sort of like the first practical implementations, which is already live in the Go Schiener network. They've already proven most of the components of core decide, especially Mana as well, which has been working quite excellent so far. I think so, right? There's nothing that's going to prevent core decide, nothing. What we have to do now with basically the primary objective right now with Nectar is to have a fully feature complete version of core decide, right? This fully decentralized version of IOTA that we can extensively test, and we also start to battle test more. You know, the main thing that differentiates permissionless networks from permissioned protocols is that permissionless networks are really being battle tested every single day, right? There's a huge bounty to attack IOTA because it has a certain market cap. There's a huge bounty to attack Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. Because if you're successful, if you're able to exploit the vulnerability, you will be rewarded handsomely. So as such, you can really make the argument that these permissionless networks are much more secure because every day they're being exposed to the public, right? Anybody with the right skill set and with the right background is able to attack these networks. And as such, they are more secure than permissioned networks. And I think that's that's really an important thing to keep in mind with the intention of this incentivized testnet that we're going to launch with Nectar, is to really invite the public to try and break core decide and be rewarded for it. And when it comes to specific parameters, I definitely think that we also want to see more how Mana is going to play out. With even more users participating. There's also, I think what's also important is that we want to have the full stack integrated. That means that we want to have wallets, we want to have explorers, and all of that ready so that we can also see how that plays out with users and playing around with it. So ultimately, it's really about us releasing a version of core decide that we feel comfortable with to give out rewards for, and to also have the wallet ready, to have explorers ready, node software ready, documentation ready, so that basically the implementation and core decide as a solution itself is being tested in the real world by the entire ecosystem. so that's really the main intention of that. When it comes to specific parameters and what we're trying to fine tune, I don't know that myself. I think when we get Billy on the show, or maybe Angelo, they can give you guys much more specific details on what they're trying to fine tune and also the results. So think, because the timeline right now looks as follows, right? Chrysalis is going live now on the 28th, so less than 48 hours. And after that, we have a couple of weeks until Nectar is going live. If you're following the Go Shimmer channels on Discord, you will see that we are very, very close. We're not yet giving out the date. I think we will be able to give out the date over the next 2 weeks, hopefully less. And then you guys will have a specific date when Nectar is going to launch. And until then, we're definitely going to do a lot more educational content and also answer some of these questions around what is going to happen with the Nectar network. What is the main intentions? What are we testing for? What are we exploiting, right? And so on. So over the next few weeks, we're going to prepare the content. And I think the important thing to keep in mind is that after Chrysalis, we are not resting, right? I think the engineering team is definitely resting in some capacity. But the primary focus is that we have a full quarter of new releases ahead of us, and we are really focused on executing on that right now. So after Chrysalis, we have Nectar. And then after that, we are working on some other stuff as well, right? So it's all coming together. And we're also going to provide more information on how the incentives will be provided. So it will come in due time. Don't worry. Can you guys also upload the audio as a podcast on services like Spotify? It would be great to listen to these on mobile while driving or working without needing YouTube to be on the screen. Oh, that's actually a good point. We will do that. I'll try and make a note somewhere afterwards. Yeah, but thanks for the input. We will do it. Hi, Dom. Great work, everyone in the IOTAs. Yeah, fully agree. I have a question regarding hardware. You mentioned that in the future you would expect nodes being run in routers or small devices. Have the IF considered building their own piece of hardware with a pre-installed node that would also look for updates automatically? If people were to get these, would that help speed up the TPS, or what would be the benefit of a regular Joe having their own node? And we've definitely looked at that quite extensively. We actually thought about doing it as a sort of subsidiary, for-profit subsidiary under the IOTA Foundation, where we could do hardware that has storage capacity, compute, and also the primary intention of it is that everybody has a node ready to go, ready to be installed in their home. We will definitely move down that route, I would say. Right now, we don't have any specific timelines, also because obviously we are still rapidly developing the core protocol. Now with Chrysalis, it will be more stable. And so I think with that, it probably makes more sense to think about what kind of hardware we can release. What I would really want to do with that is to make it more as an app store, right? Where you then have, for example, smart contracts that you can pre-install into your hardware, and then, for example, sell out storage capacity, manage your home, and all of that. And all of that is being managed by smart contracts, by your digital identity stored on IOTA, and by access control and stuff like that. So to answer your question, yes, we've thought about it. Yes, we will do it. Yes, we really encourage the ecosystem to explore this as well, because I think this is a very exciting idea. Obviously, we don't want people to run Raspberry Pis or shitty hardware. Sorry. That's gonna break the network. But we should definitely do that. Anything that helps to reduce the entry barrier to such crucial infrastructure is really important, because at the end of the day, the most important security of the Corticide network or of the future IOTA network will be the number of nodes, right? So they're going to secure the network with the generating mana and so on. So I would say lowering the entry barriers are always good. So we should always pursue that. I actually wonder how many people would buy that. That's like it's an interesting question. I think if you combine it with a router and have a value proposition for the router to, for example, have some kind of filtering, right, of traffic, I think then the value proposition is a different one, right? The value proposition then is basically, hey, we have this privacy preserving device that secures your home, but in addition to that, it also has an IOTA node installed. But like we can look at different options, but we should definitely think about doing that. Hi Dom. One, when is the earliest we would expect to see color coins on the IOTA mainnet? And two, is it true that color coins can always be uncolored, converted into the original IOTA token by the user on at least a one-to-one basis, matching the original cost? First of all, to your second question, yes, you can always uncolor them at any point. Anybody can uncolor them, like if they own them, obviously. And it's the same amount of IOTA tokens then. So there you don't have to worry, right? And to your first point, when is the earliest we would expect to see colored coins? Right now, colored coins are already possible on the Go Shimmer version. Levente has done a really good job in updating the new specifications. And we are really, really, really excited about that, because what's going to happen with that then basically is that you have specific output types for transactions. And basically what these output types allow you to do is you can sort of have like, you can program these tokens in a very simple manner, but it's very powerful, right? So what we are doing right now is we're testing this new digital assets framework further. And hopefully with the Nectar release, all of you will be able to launch tokens yourselves. And you can do NFTs, you can do cryptocurrency, any cryptocurrency, you can do stable coins, and you can do all of that on the Nectar network when it's live. And just so you know, right, the specification first launches on Nectar, and then it's going to be battle tested a little bit. And after that battle testing phase, we are going to probably get it onto the IOTA mainnet at one point, right? I don't want to commit to any timelines yet, because only bad things can come from that, because I haven't discussed it with the team yet, so they will kill me. But it will come onto the mainnet after it's been battle tested on the Nectar network. The very exciting part, though, is the fact that if you're developing your NFT marketplace according to the specification, it will be the same on the IOTA network, right? So there's not going to be any difference from doing digital assets on Nectar to doing digital assets on IOTA. So if you launch your token on the Nectar network, you can port it over to the IOTA network. That is why we highly encourage all of you to start building now, right? Now with Nectar, you can already do digital assets. You can also do smart contracts and all of that. And the application that you're building will work on IOTA as well, right? You don't have to do many big changes anymore. So that's very exciting. So I can really encourage all of you to look into that. If the latter is true, it would make the token economics very interesting, as it would essentially make the purchase of color coins risk-free. Yeah, that is a very interesting point, actually. Just like, yeah, no, that's true. I think there's different color coins that you can also have with different output types, but we're gonna explain that further. But I definitely agree with you. There's always like a minimum asset that you have then. It's kind of interesting, right? It's like when you have a coin and the metal in the coin has certain value of it just by repurposing it, right? So it's the same true in that regard. These questions are comparing Ripple to IOTA, and I think Ripple is a centralized blockchain version of IOTA to a certain extent. Probably right, yeah. Not necessarily with machine-to-machine economy, but I would say it has similar ambition in other areas. With that being said, do you think IOTA would be a better solution for central banks than RippleNet, XRP, and why? Or is this one of those cases where working together would benefit both? First of all, I definitely think that central bank digital currencies make a ton of sense on IOTA. the way that we are developing this new digital assets framework and the way that we are developing IOTA smart contracts, it makes a ton of sense to do CBDC, so stablecoins, central bank digital currencies on IOTA. The main benefit that they have is that they can sit on layer one. They have the same level of security as the IOTA token, and they're programmable through smart contracts. And because of that, you could have like a permissioned network. Because of the way that IOTA smart contracts work, you can have a permissioned smart contract network that the central bank and their banking network or whatever controls and maintains. And they're able to basically program / manipulate the central bank digital currencies that are stored on layer one. So in that regard, IOTA makes a ton of sense for that. I don't think that we're going to see IOTA being utilized for clearing and settlement, stuff like that. You could use it obviously for remittances, because they're any type of value exchange, as long as it's being adopted on both sides, right? The recipient side and the sender side, then it makes sense to use IOTA. And I definitely think that we are looking more into that. And I can really encourage the ecosystem again to look into that, because we as the IOTA Foundation, we should not do all of these use cases. We should not explore them. I think the ecosystem is really there to do that. So we will definitely go down the financial sector, the financial industry, and try and work together with more partners there, especially central banks. I think there's some interesting arguments to make why IOTA is superior. Do you think, by the way, one thing why it's superior is because you can leverage the security of the permissionless network, the permissionless IOTA network, thanks to Mana, while maintaining the privacy and security that you intended with a permissioned smart contract network. So the best of both worlds, basically. Do you think there's a longevity in Ripple's node vetting system, vetted by human employees of Ripple, versus IOTA, Goshen, or Mana for allowing trustworthy nodes into the network? I asked these questions assuming banks may want to lean towards something more centralized rather than decentralized. Please give your insight. It really depends on how you define security, right? Do you define security by knowing that somebody you trust, or that knowing that somebody who has been verified, has been ID verified, is more reliable to secure your system than unknown participants who are basically incentivized through the economics of the system, right? I think the main intention that we have with IOTA is the latter. We don't want to do KYC verification. The security of our system does not depend on this KYC process, because the KYC process is then always going to be the single point of failure. Let's say there's a rogue employee that is verifying. By the way, I don't know how Ripple works, and so I'm just making bad assumptions here in some regard. I'm just saying that if your system relies on this centralized way of vetting nodes, you're always going to have a centralized point of failure, right? Single point of failure, because if you have a rogue employee, they're going to verify rogue identities, and those rogue identities will eventually be able to harm the system one way or another, either do attacks, either censor transactions, or even worse, right? Mint tokens, whatever is possible. The main intention of a permissionless network like IOTA, and even Bitcoin and Ethereum, is that the economics of the system make it secure, right? Nobody is really nobody's really able to acquire enough mana to attack the network, because it's just inhibitively expensive. So we have all of these different security measures in place to make sure that the network is open, anybody can participate, anybody can spin up a node, and through that we also get the security behind the system, right? So fundamentally, it's about open versus private. I think this whole argument that central banks and the banks in general make about permissioned versus permissionless is not the right one to make, because we have to ask ourselves the question, like, which kind of infrastructure do we want to trust in? And I don't trust permissioned blockchain infrastructure that is maintained by 8 different companies where I have no oversight into how they're running it, how it's being operationalized, and how it's being secured, right? If Google, Facebook, and so on can't even keep their systems secure and are being hacked and have hundreds of millions of identities stolen, I don't think that any of these companies will either, right? So eventually something will go wrong. And that's why I personally am a big advocate of permissionless, right? And we at IOTA are big advocates for permissionless networks because we think that ultimately they are the digital infrastructure that is the most secure and will be the most reliable one. Right now, we're still in an environment where permissionless networks are not scalable enough yet. They're not production ready, but we are going to move towards a future, a very near future, right? With Chrysalis and Nectar, and then Corticite, where the base layer is production ready. So then these permissioned networks don't make any sense anymore. I think the combination of permissionless with permissioned is a very exciting one, right? You have a permissionless network where anybody is able to participate. The base layer is being secured by this open network. And then on top of that, you are able to launch smart contracts that are permissioned, that have defined identities, but the assets are still on layer 1, right? That is how you can get the interoperability between smart contracts and are able to own your assets while participating in these ecosystems, communities that are built on permissioned smart contracts. So yeah, it's really an apples versus oranges comparison. But ultimately, the future is permissionless. Nothing else makes sense, and nothing. I think if permission networks take over our digital infrastructure, then we've really failed. Like we as an entire crypto ecosystem have fundamentally failed if governments run on permissioned networks. So that is really what we are fighting for, right? We believe in an open future where open source code is being utilized to run our governments, to run our systems, to secure our systems, right? Nothing else makes sense. So this is what we're going for. And I think with central banks, obviously you want to have anonymity, you want to have security, you want to have programmability. I think all of these properties can be achieved. Just take some time, but we're going to get there for the layer 1 solutions. Okay, this is going to be a very long answer. By the way, like with such a such an ending, I kind of have to read it all now. Hey Dom, the public sentiment towards Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is currently changing a little due to the impact that mining has on the climate. Since the subject is very complicated and most people only associate crypto with Bitcoin, it is of course easy for this majority to associate crypto with extreme power consumption and only think of crypto as a whole as some sort of internet currency. Since I'm from Germany, I see a lot of misinformation about crypto in media outlets and German subreddits. Are there any plans to educate the public in this regard? Definitely, we have to do more about that. More education, more content. We've done a lot of hiring over the last few weeks, so we have more great content producers on board. Because ultimately, it's always a capacity problem that we have. Even though we are 140, 150 people in the foundation right now, we're still struggling, right? Because there's so much to do, but we're going to get there. So yes, we will definitely do a lot more education. Also, of course, IOTA plays a very important role in Germany since the foundation is based in Berlin and works with many German companies. The federal elections are coming up this year. The Green Party which has become a strong force lately, has added 2 paragraphs on cryptocurrencies to its policy program that sound a bit worrying at first glance. I'm adding them below in German and English. All right, let me read them. Central banks should create their own standards for digital currency. By the way, this is what the Green Party had in their, is this their like election proposal thingy, policy program? Yeah, okay. Central banks should create their own standards for digital currencies. I think all of us agree with that, right? They are the ones that have to create the central bank digital currencies. We're not going to create a replacement for the euro. And Two, there is a need for European regulation for development that creates legal certainty for consumers. An erosion of the monopoly of money and currency over private currencies in the area must not be allowed. That's an interesting statement. I guess this is not news, right? Many of central banks have always said that because of cryptocurrencies, they're not able to enforce their monetary policies, right? But cryptocurrencies are not a replacement for the euro. Like we've created entirely new economies, if you think about it, right? If you look at DeFi, you don't think about the banks don't have enough control over it, or they don't have enough influence over it. Like it's entirely new economies that were created out of nothing. Same with IOTA, right? Our focus is on this machine economy that cannot be tapped by a digital euro or by central bank digital currencies. So, but it just shows that they have a very similar view. I think yes, they also said similar stuff like years ago. But let's see what the next paragraph reads. Digital payments, cryptocurrencies, and the people behind the accounts must be traceable. Okay. A state infrastructure is required to combat crimes such as money laundering, the representation of sexual violence against children, tax evasion, and terrorist financing. First of all, obviously that state infrastructure has to be there, and nothing is better to do that on than cryptocurrencies, because they are much easier to trace, they're much easier to really analyze. And so of course that statement makes sense, that you want to make sure that these technologies are not being misused. But stating that it's the only thing that these technologies are for is really a false narrative, right? Because so much more money laundering is happening with fiat money, with physical paper money, right? Than with cryptocurrencies. Must be traceable. I think that's I don't really agree with that. I think anonymity is an important property as well for having our personal freedom, for making sure that nobody is really has the ability to control us or negatively influence us. So I really believe in anonymous digital currencies as well. Let me continue reading the question. Bureaucracy language can be confusing and difficult, so I can understand if you can't say anything about this yet, or if you want to dig deeper into the topic later on. What could be the dangers for cryptocurrencies, or especially IOTA in Germany, if the market is regulated much more tightly? Sorry. There was a whole lot of text. Sorry for that. We'll accept your apology. So first of all, right, I think everybody, like all parties, have a different sort of agenda. I think the agenda here is very clear, that they want to protect the interests and protect the mandate that central banks, and especially the Bundesbank, right, the German central bank has, which is to control the monetary supply and have policies in place to basically make certain decisions like for the economy, right? They basically see cryptocurrencies as a potential threat to that mandate that central banks have. And I think this is really just a bunch of policy text. I don't think that this is anything that they will ultimately enforce or go against. I know that in the European Union, there we have wait, let me quickly find it. We have a new regulatory framework that is being proposed by the European Commission, which is called MiCA. And the MiCA framework is actually really favorable, and it's actually really good for us, because what we want to have is we want to have a very clearly defined regulatory framework for crypto assets, right? Any kind of crypto asset, whether it's stable coins, whether it's cryptocurrencies like IOTA, and so on and so forth, right? Let me try and find a good link. So that is really what we need for the adoption of cryptocurrencies. I think this is good. Oh, wait. So this is currently being proposed. Can you guys see it? Wait. I was just reading this comment. When did Dom actually stop using swear words? Man, it was inactive for too long. I stopped using it quite some time ago. We all have to mature, right? But okay, back on topic, regulations. We want regulations. We want cryptocurrencies to have a clearly defined legal framework so that large companies, governments, startups, us as individuals, really know how to treat them, how to utilize them, and how to benefit them. We do not want regulation that is inhibitive, right? Regulation that says you cannot do X, you cannot do Y, you cannot do Z, right? So it's always a fine balance between having a clearly defined framework where you know what you can do and having a framework that limits the innovation and that limits the potential. From everything that we've discussed with our legal team and with our experts, this new framework that is being proposed by the European Commission called MiCA, Markets in Crypto Assets and Amending Directive. It's very good, actually, because it provides the legal clarity that we want, and it's not inhibitive for the growth of cryptocurrencies. So this is currently being proposed. I think it will probably take another year or two until it's really through. But this is really going in the right direction, right? And so then the way that it works into the European Commission, right, is they bring this proposal, they agree on it, and then every country has to ratify it. And so I think even though the Green Party here might not be favorable to some certain type of cryptocurrencies, I think ultimately they have to follow the guidance of the European Commission, right? And I personally think that what the Green Party here thinks is stablecoins. And I think, and quite honestly, I think with stablecoins, I probably agree. Because with stablecoins, you want to have a central bank that actually issues a digital euro, digital dollar, or whatever, puts it onto the blockchain, and then opens it up to these ecosystems. I really don't think that they mean IOTA. I don't think they mean Bitcoin or Ethereum. I think they're really focused on stablecoins with this statement here. But as I already mentioned, what is being proposed in the European Union right now with this new framework, also what's being proposed in the US and other markets, is very good. Like back in 2016, we were a lot more worried about all the regulations and what might not be allowed anymore. So I think when it comes to the regulations part, all of you should really be confident that we're on the right track. Yeah. Next question. One of the major concerns regarding the future Neuralink computer-brain interface is about the security of information and about granting permissions. In principle, would IOTA Identity and IOTA Streams be able to facilitate this data access control and security? I don't know about the specs of this Neuralink. I think the way that it would probably work is that you connect your phone with the chip, and the data gets streamed to the phone. And then once it's on the phone, we can definitely encrypt it with IOTA Streams and also secure it with IOTA Identity. So I think that's definitely a use case to look for. It's kind of a scary one as well, by the way, but it's kind of interesting. The IF is regularly adding new features to the IOTA ecosystem and IOTA itself. However, a few AMAs ago, you said that the IF has tried to build an HR product on IOTA, but that it went nowhere, and you weren't able to come up with other product workloads you could shift onto IOTA Chrysalis. Now Uberge has removed IOTA from the digital vaccination passport and other DLTs, thus removing the closest thing IOTA had to a production use case. First of all, that's not true. That is not the closest thing we've had to a production use case. If you look at everything that's being built by Zebra Technologies, where IOTA is being used in production, everything and other stuff, those are really production use cases. The digital vaccination passport was just one example, right? Uberge is still using IOTA for other stuff, including the test facilities, right? Where the tests are being stored on IOTA. I think when it came to the digital vaccination passport, it's purely a political game where they weren't allowed to use any blockchain at all. And the only blockchain infrastructure that they were allowed to utilize was permissioned networks, which again goes back to what I said before, right? Permission versus permissionless. We want to go towards a permissionless future. So obviously we were quite disappointed by this, but ultimately we're not interested in politics. We don't play that game yet, I guess. So we never were even part of the negotiations or the discussions. So we couldn't educate them. I think in the future we'll definitely make up to that and get those vaccination passports going. If neither you nor the industry has a workable approaches for actual products, would it not create more value for IOTA, including the token, to come up with user production stories first and then invest in new features and ecosystem development? No, I fully agree with you. Like, what we should definitely do is clearly define what we're trying to achieve and how IOTA solves these problems. If we have those kind of user stories, if we have those kind of problems clearly defined, it makes it very clear on how to approach them and where to utilize IOTA, right? But that is not how the startup world works, right? Ultimately, as a startup, you live in an environment of uncertainty. You go down a path because you're committed and because you believe in this future, because you believe that you're actually solving problems. Ultimately, there's always some problems that arise, right? Product market fit is not there. Team structure is not there, whatever, right? You have all of these uncertainties that you face as a startup. But nonetheless, we should still push forward right now because there's all of these different opportunities where IOTA could be utilized in the real world, where IOTA could be adopted. So I think that's really exciting. And we shouldn't just focus on a singular use case. IOTA is digital infrastructure, right? It should be utilized it will be utilized in all industries. It's not just for supply chain. It's not just for mobility. It's not just for healthcare. It can be utilized across all of them. So the way that we have reshifted our focus is, first of all, really prioritize layer one, making sure that the IOTA protocol is production ready so that you can reliably build on top. And second of all, with our software, we have a much more product-centric approach where we have streams, where we have identity, where we have access, where we have smart contracts. And now with those specific products, you can really go much more streamlined and much more focused into the market. So for example, already right now, we're really working on identity for the finance sector, but also on identity for corporates and stuff like that, right? Very simple examples. So we are really doing that, and through that, we are really getting the adoption that we want to. But we as a protocol, because we are permissionless, because we are open, we should pursue all of these different options, and we should not wait for anything to fall on our lap, right? This isn't about luck. This is about pursuit and not giving up on this pursuit. Let me drink some water. Kind of thirsty, or can't speak. Hey, Dom, will PayPal integrate IOTA or offer it for sale? Are there any discussions with PayPal? Is a cooperation between Tesla and IOTA Foundation possible? Thank you for your great work and keep us up to date. Anything is possible, right? We're not speaking with PayPal or Tesla right now, just so you guys know. I think when it comes to PayPal, in the near future, when they want to add more options, we'll definitely try and position IOTA. But right now, there's nothing certain. So let's see. Hi, Dom, Nenator. A few months ago, there was information that you estimated that 35% annual costs will be covered by grants and money from companies. Has the percentage changed now since the token price is significantly higher? Thanks for the transparency. Yeah, definitely changed. Primarily because we had to scale up the hiring, simply because there's so much happening with smart contracts and so on that we felt confident with hiring more. So right now we have like 20, 30 job openings. We are still getting, I think like 10 to 20% of our annual costs are still covered by non-token sales. But right now we are finalizing some other stuff that we believe can really help us with not having to sell tokens. So we're executing on that strategy right now. But overall, we feel very comfortable and confident in the current setup that we have. So you guys will hear more about that soon, I guess. Hey Dom, lately I've been trying to learn more about the importance of non-value transactions within IoT, but have yet to find a resource that really goes into this. Could you perhaps explain the importance of a non-value transaction within IoT and how feeless transactions may be required for this? It would be nice to hear some specific examples of non-value transactions to give people some ideas of what these could consist of. Fundamentally, non-value transactions are just data transactions. You're storing data, or like, let me rephrase. You're leveraging the IOTA Tangle to secure your data sets, to make them verifiable and to make them immutable, right? So best example is, let's say that you have a packet of data that you want to transfer to somebody else. What you could do is you could hash that data, you could store it on the IOTA Tangle and in a non-value transaction. And now when you share this data with an external party, they are actually able to verify it, right? They can regenerate the hash, and then they can see the timestamp of the transaction, and they can see that the hash is the same. Very simple use case, but very powerful. Same thing is possible with audit trails. Let's say that I have a machine and I want to know what happens at each point in time, but I want to have an immutable audit trail so that nobody can tamper with it. Perfect use case as well for IOTA. The way that we are going down the non-value transaction route is really for supply chain tracking, where you want to store, where you want to verify the sort of chain of custody of a good. Basically, you want to trace and you want to verify where good has been at each point in the supply chain, right? Who has processed it, when it reached the port, and so on and so forth. Because the big benefits that you get out of that is, first of all, the security, right? Nobody can tamper with the data. You secure the data from the source, the IoT device, and you make it shareable with other third-party suppliers, IoT platforms, whatever, right? That is very exciting. Port authorities, you can share this data, it's immutable, and it's secure. But what's even more exciting is that once the data sits on the IOTA ledger and is represented in the IOTA network, you can automate processes with that data. For example, let's say the most used example that we always have is like, let's say we have a refrigerated container delivering vaccines, right? And the container has to be at a certain temperature. Now what you can do is you can secure the data on the IOTA ledger, you run a smart contract on that data, and if a certain threshold is met, you can trigger an automated condition. For example, that an insurance payment should be paid out. And this is really what the future of automation looks like. You have trustworthy data. You make that trustworthy data programmable, right? It's the input of a smart contract, input of an automated process, And then this automated process is able to execute on that data and really have a fully automated flow, right? Process flow. And that is really why DLT is so exciting, because we can do payments, we can do data, and we can do processes. All three of those combined really deliver this autonomous future. That is why we are so excited about having oracles and smart contracts combined, because that is really what's required for this machine economy, right? You secure the data from the source, which is the IoT device, you represent it in the IOTA network, and then you make automated decisions with IOTA smart contracts. And it's hugely valuable for companies, but also for this digital infrastructure, so you can really trust in it. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's a lot of questions. Nice. Hello, Dom. First of all, a big compliment for all the progress that the IF has made recently. My question: in a few days, the biggest update in the history of IOTA will start, according to you. According to me, that's true. This update is hyped, praised, and everyone has been looking forward to this update from us. Honestly, if this update was not hyped, praised, I would be very disappointed, because we've been really working hard on it. What about after the update? If we assume that this update will be completed in April 28th, 2021, what will happen then? First of all, by the way, your name is very fitting to the questions. What's going to happen after the 28th? Right. First of all, we have a new version of IOTA that is running, that is basically the best version of itself. That is what we wanted to achieve with Chrysalis. Which kind of cryptography, which kind of transaction structure, which kind of algorithms should we have in the IOTA protocol to really get it to the most performant levels and to the most useful levels that it should be. And that is what Chrysalis is. So after the 28th, the IOTA mainnet will be the best version of itself. So you have reusable addresses, you have UTXO, you have programmable transactions that are coming with the output types. So the protocol, the network itself is readying itself to become fully production ready. So after Chrysalis, the last remaining step to make IOTA fully production ready is to remove the coordinator. And as I already mentioned before, we have Nectar coming out in a couple of weeks. So it's very close. So Nectar is the incentivized public testnet for Corticide. And then after that, we're going to work on getting Corticide happening on the IOTA mainnet. So that is the layer one, right? Layer one objective is to make it production ready. On the application layer, we have streams, we have identity, and we have access, where we are focused on making them production ready too. So they are like those specific products. And then in addition to that, one of our major focuses right now is really smart contracts. How can we make smart contracts on IOTA a reality so that they run production ready and so that they really solve a big problem? So all of that is going to happen after Chrysalis, and it's going to be a packed Q2, and going to be a really exciting end of the year. Because what's really exciting is, as we develop this software and as it's really useful, right? We're going to have so many new applications that are launching in our ecosystem, so that this tangible adoption and this ecosystem around IOTA is really coming alive, is getting even bigger. So that is really the primary objective, right? Make production ready software, focus on building up the ecosystem, and the rest will be history, right? Pretty simple. We will do it. I mean, you must have big products, partners, announcements, or whatever in the pipeline. Otherwise, there will be an update, but in reality, no new use cases or even partners who are apparently just waiting for this update. No, right? Everything is. This is not just going to be an update and that's it, right? We have partners lined up. We are working on new use cases and all of that. So don't worry. When will the roadmap be updated? The roadmap. It's like my favorite discussion after reclaims. The roadmap, definitely. We're going to update it. we wanted to make a new version of it, but everybody really had to focus on the Chrysalis release. I'm gonna say the famous words of soon. I don't know the timeline yet. We have to discuss it with the with the team. But it will be updated. I think most important is that you guys know where we're heading, and then the timelines are less important. What is the current status of Nectar? When can we expect the public test network? A couple of weeks, very soon. Are there any new advances with Curve and PayPal? Right now, no. We're still discussing things with Curve, but we'll know more soon. And can exchanges, for example, Coinbase, already start integrating IOTA, or is this option only possible from April 28th? No, they can already now integrate IOTA. Right? Our testnet is live, our documentation is live, and so it should be pretty straightforward, I would say. What are your goals for your Asia tour next quarter? Are there already companies, partners, governments with whom appointments have been made? Tell us a little more about this tour. Honestly, I think I really hope that the COVID restrictions will allow it. We already have some very exciting funds that we work with, right? Asian funds. And so we're going to plan the tour. What's most important about this tour is to help build up the local ecosystem. So do meetups, talk with companies, talk with potential partners. So my objective will be to spend in each place, like spend 2 or 3 weeks in each place. And really help to build up the local community there, because that that is what makes IOTA so powerful, right? It's all of you. It's the IOTA community that makes us so powerful, and that also makes it so much fun. So we'll definitely try to be in each location and start to build up the local ecosystem, speak with partners, get partners on board first and foremost, and then also do meetups and basically encourage people in those communities to start building, right? Building solutions on top of IOTA, on top of smart contracts, digital assets, and all of that. And once we know more about the exact details of the tour, I'll definitely share it. As I mentioned, I hope COVID is not gonna put a break to it, but we'll share more as it comes. Let's do like maybe 2 or 3 more questions. Do you utilize the Tangle within the IOTA Foundation? Or are there any plans to do so in the near future once production ready? If so, what will you use it for? Right now, I think I mentioned it, right? We tried to do a sort of HR tool, but we just simply didn't have any time to develop it. I think, oh, there's already the answer here. I think what we are going to do is, once identity is ready, we'll definitely do that internally. I'm very excited about digital identity and utilizing that for smart contracts so that you can like identify yourself, right? And I think that will be super exciting. Like for DeFi applications, dApps, and so on. But we're also obviously using streams, right? Secure data streams, oracles, and stuff like that. So I think those will be the use case that we're going to do, especially also smart contracts will be exciting. The thing is that the IOTA Foundation, even though we develop all of this cool stuff, when it comes to our partners, like think about it, right? The German government, the finance authorities, Bamboo HR, our OKR platform, Google Drive, whatever, right? Whatever digital tool that we utilize today and whatever like partner that helps us to be operational, none of them use these tools. So for us, it would be a bigger investment where we would have to convince a partner to utilize our solution as well. I'd say, for example, digital identity in HR, right? It's not just about the singular company adopting it, i.e. the IOTA Foundation, but it has to be an ecosystem of companies that adopt it for it to be useful. So it will definitely come. But I don't think the IOTA Foundation will be the main adopter. I think it will really be big companies that are that have their ecosystem, that have the power over their ecosystem to push the adoption. And nonetheless, right, we are focused on building up this ecosystem on top of IOTA to build up the machine economy. So with smart contracts, with dApps, with DeFi, and all of that, all of these different products are really coming together. Okay, let's do these 2 questions? Yeah. The city of Miami. I've never been to Miami. I've only been to, I think it was Orlando. No, it wasn't. Yeah, probably. The city of Miami is quickly becoming one of the main American crypto hubs. Here's some of the ways the city is doing that. The mayor of Miami is very pro-crypto. Florida legislator is also on board when working. A crypto exchange, FTX, won the naming rights. I think that's pretty crazy, by the way, that they won the naming rights. With this in mind, will you consider choosing Miami as the location for your first US headquarters? It's an interesting question. Maybe. I've never been to Miami. I think when it comes to the US, we have to go where the ecosystem is, right? We've never really been part of the crypto ecosystem as such, right? Because we've always focused on big companies. And so right now our hubs are still Austin and New York, but maybe Miami, like we're open for it. So I guess it just depends on who we speak with there, what kind of options they give us and so on. We're definitely not going to open up a subsidiary or open up an office there simply because we don't do offices. We don't need offices. And so we'll see, right? Maybe we will spend some time there in the near future, but our primary focus right now is really New York, simply because of the financial market there. Last question. Hi, Dom. Do you suggest transferring our current IOTA tokens to the new Chrysalis mainnet before or after the migration period? When would it be safer, easier? First of all, it's always the same level of safeness, right? It's always safe and it's always easy. So it just depends on your personal preference. Whenever you feel like, and you can also start with a small test transfer. If you want to do that, you should probably set up your test wallet now so that you can do the migration with that test wallet. Because what's going to happen is that after the 28th, the current network will only be able to support migrations to the new network. So it's really up to you guys, right? If you want to join the new Chrysalis network sooner, do the migration now, right? But you can always do it after the mainnet is live. So it's all coming together. Cool. So I think we had a good show. We have some very exciting stuff happening in less than 48 hours. So I hope that you guys are very excited, because we definitely are. What's going to happen is that on Wednesday, we're going to do like an IOTA show on Discord. Maybe we can live stream it. I think it would be fun. But we definitely want to celebrate this together with you guys, because this is the biggest achievement in IOTA's history. It is the biggest event in our history. So think about that, right? We are launching not just a new protocol, everything is going to be new. And everything is going to be the best version of IOTA. And after that, we have so much more happening. So I think we should celebrate this and really celebrate the success and the achievement of the people in the IOTA Foundation and the IOTA community. So we will share more details with you guys probably tomorrow, what we're going to do on the IOTA Discord. But without further ado, I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of your Monday, and see you guys on Wednesday. Bye-bye.